The Renaissance also produced a body of ideas. These ideas were very different, but also were very challenging regarding the existing state of affairs in terms of religion, politics, and science. The person we see here, Plotinus, who we have met before, was a philosopher of the 3rd century. He was in charge of taking care of Plato's writings, disseminating them, interpreting them, and as we also saw in the medieval chapter, St. Augustine took the post and continued elaborating Plato's idea to develop his proposal of the city of man, imperfect, confronted to the city of God. The Renaissance did not disregard this set of ideas. In the 15th century, a young philosopher, Marsilio Ficino from Florence, led the so-called Neoplatonic Florentine school. He gathered people in his house. He was a young bourgeois, a citizen of the city of Florence, and discussed the ideas of Plato and proposed that, for example, the sun was a material representation of God, no? Following the scheme of the perfect idea or form and the imperfect representation, which is material, in this case, the sun. Ficino was followed by Pico, Della Mirandola, a great philosopher who only at the age of 23 defended his thesis on religion, science, magic, philosophy, and wrote a wonderful treatise called The Oration on the Dignity of Man that has been called in time the Manifesto of the Renaissance because it basically confirms that the human being should be led by his reason and his common sense and his experience, something that at that point could sound like a heresy. Another great figure of the Italian Renaissance is Cardinal Pietro Bimbo, who was a scholar, a literary critic, a poet, and obviously a religious man. He was crucial to the development of the Italian language, the Tuscan language, as was known there, and used it as a literary medium, codifying this beautiful dialect of the Romance family into what is now its modern form. Baldassare Castiglioni, here in a beautiful painting by Titian, a courtier, a diplomat, an important member of the Italian aristocracy, very famous because of his book of the Courtier, published in 1528, in which he advises young noblemen to always be led by proportion and measure, to be dexter in music, poetry, but also in arms. With the arms and the letters, that's the ideal of the Renaissance man, someone who has to be skilled in different activities, someone who should know about action, but also about thought and reflection. This is the formula, according to Castiglioni, to achieve happiness, to achieve completeness, to really become a whole person, which is finally one of the goals of the Renaissance. But not all of them were Italian. The Renaissance was rapidly spread through France, England, Spain, which was at that moment, in the 16th century, the most powerful country in the world. Just in a few decades, Spain had gained a huge protagonism due to the expulsion of the Moors and Jews, the consolidation of a national identity, and the expansion of its borders with the conquest of the Americas. The cover we see here, it's from 1590. A little late, apparently, but it's the third Spanish translation of a beautiful treatise of love by León Hebreo, also called Yehuda Abravanel, who was a Jewish Portuguese intellectual who had to flee Portugal in the 1490s after being expelled from the court of Isabel and Ferdinand in Castile. He finally landed in Italy, where he developed his writings about love in the form of dialogues, just like many other treatises of the Renaissance based on the Platonic dialogues. A treatise about love in 3 parts, in which basically León Hebreo establishes that 2 truths could be valid simultaneously. He sees no contradiction in the faith of the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. He basically proposes a world of harmony, of coexistence. And who is the translator into Spanish of this beautiful book? No one less than the Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, another great man of the Renaissance, born in Cusco, Peru, the son of an Incan princess and a Spanish conqueror who traveled at the age of 20 to Spain, and he never returned to Peru. But while in the Iberian Peninsula, he educated himself without forgetting his Andean roots, his mother language of Quechua, and this richness of perspectives, this multiple cultural background would only benefit his writings. At the end of his career, he published the most beautiful and compelling history of the Incas ever written, the Royal Commentaries. The translation of León Hebreo by Garcilaso de la Vega is another sample of his wonderful prose and his multi-layered consciousness, which is typical of any important Renaissance intellectual.